Welcome back. It is still Wednesday, January 27, 2016. This is still the morning edition on I-24 News, and thank you for staying with us. Today, the world marks International Holocaust Remembrance Day to commemorate the victims of the Holocaust and World War II, among them 6 million Jews murdered by Germany's Nazi regime. Ceremonies, exhibitions, and memorials in over 100 countries will be held worldwide on this day, set by the United Nations to help us all never forget the atrocities that ended 71 years ago. Now, with the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau death camp in Poland by the Russian army. Let's take a look, to begin with, at the following report about what the Holocaust means to the world on this day, 7 decades on, and break it down from there.
The world marks International Holocaust Remembrance Day Wednesday, and the preparations are underway. On Monday, German Chancellor Angela Merkel attended a special exhibition of artworks produced by Holocaust victims. This is the biggest and most comprehensive exhibition of works from Israel's Yad Vashem Holocaust Research Institute ever to be displayed outside Israel.
The artworks shown here warn us, each picture in its own way, to always remember what happened, to always think of the victims and to make every effort to ensure it never happens again.
Also in Germany, Holocaust survivor Eva Fahidi decided to mark the event in a unique way, using a modern dance performance to tell the world her horrific experiences at the Auschwitz extermination camp. It's certainly not a conservative approach to the subject, but Eva believes it's the most accurate way to express her feelings and memories.
You can express yourself much better and more precisely with gestures, and especially with dance, than verbally. Whether you want it or not, with gestures and movements you show much more than you intend to. There is body language, and you can tell everything with it, especially the things you don't want.
On Wednesday, a series of events around the globe will mark the most horrific mass murder in history, which saw the deaths of 6 million Jews and millions of non-Jews by the Nazis and their allies. US President Barack Obama will attend a special ceremony at the Israeli embassy in Washington. In Iran, authorities decided to mark the event with a controversial cartoon contest regarding the issue. According to Haaretz newspaper, UNESCO Director General Irina Bokova condemned the contest and will raise the issue with Iran's President Hassan Rouhani when he addresses the agency's staff on Wednesday. 71 years after the Red Army liberated Auschwitz from the Nazis, this dark era is still a painful reminder of the cruelty and intolerance of mankind.
Let's go first to Germany, where we're joined from Berlin by I-24 News correspondent Polina Garayev. Polina, good morning to you. No place but Germany probably should be, observing and looking at this day carefully today. What is planned today in Germany?
Well, of course, this is a very significant day here in Germany, as evident by Chancellor Merkel's participation earlier this week in the opening of the Art from the Holocaust exhibit. We will also see, as has been the tradition for the past 20 years, a Holocaust survivor speaking in front of the German parliament. It will be Austrian-American writer, 84-year-old Ruth Kluger, who is very interesting. She mentioned in interviews before her appearance that although the main topic would be forced labor and her experiences during the Holocaust, she also plans to take a few moments to recognize and also praise currently Germany's refugee policy. And this will this will probably be the tone throughout the day, because even though this day is dedicated mostly to looking at the past, making the connection to nowadays politics is unavoidable. And it's likely that those who wish to preserve this policy would emphasize Germany's historic obligation to help those in need, those who are trying to escape persecution in their own country, while those who wish to see this policy change would say that this historic duty is mostly towards the Jews already living here in Germany, and emphasize the concerns that Germany is importing anti-Semitism by opening its doors to asylum seekers from Arab countries.
And speaking of anti-Semitism, Polina, I'm going to ask you a personal question on this day. You're living in Germany, you're obviously Jewish. Anti-Semitism in Europe these days in 2016, where does it stand?
Well, it's a very different question, and I'm sure that people here will tell about very different experiences. But you can see from the attitudes of the Jewish community here towards any attempts to say that the Jewish community has one opinion are very severe when the president of the Jewish Council of Jews here in Germany supported the idea of capping the number of refugees. There have been protests in the streets by Jews and non-Jews, Israelis and non-Israelis living here, saying you don't speak for us. So it's impossible to form one opinion as to the status of anti-Semitism here in Europe and in Germany in particular. This is obviously a problem, but to say whether or not it's on the rise is difficult. Some might even say that this wave of refugees is kind of diverting the attention of the far right from the Jewish community living here to now this community of asylum seekers. But of course, as I said, this is a very debatable topic.
A very debatable topic, and sadly still in existence. Anti-Semitism, racism, still in existence 71 years on. Paulina, I want to thank you for joining us from Berlin this morning. And in studio with me is Gideon Bachar. He's the head of Israel's Foreign Ministry Department for upholding the memory of the Holocaust. And with me in studio, and I want to thank you, Mr. Bachar. Looking at this day, it took a while for the world to recognize Holocaust Memorial Day, didn't it?
Well, actually, not too much. And we see that in the last 10 years, there is a surge in events and ceremonies and activities all over the world. We are estimating that there are thousands of events today taking place to commemorate the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. We, as Ministry of Foreign Affairs, are very active, and there are activities, our ambassadors, our consul generals, participate this day and during this week in more than 100 countries and consulate in events, in ceremonies, etc. Can give you the event at the Israeli embassy in Washington, for instance, this evening with the participation of President Barack Obama. Another big ceremony that will take place in the United Nations in the presence of Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and there are many other events. I'll just give you another event taking place in Guatemala. Today, 13 radio stations in Guatemala will keep 1 minute of silence to commemorate the victims of the Holocaust, that will be followed by explanations, broadcasting, etc. on the Holocaust.
Now, just wondering with you out loud, it is important for all of us, it's important for the world to remember. What would you say to critics to say that so much information about the Holocaust sometimes is being used by Israel as political capital?
Well, not at all. Actually, what we are saying is that the Holocaust should serve for us as a lesson to the international community, to humanity. What can genocide bring about humanity and killing of people? So the lessons of the Holocaust are very important, not any political means.
Not a political means. And I think the lessons of the Holocaust are very, very important to the world, but nobody knows them best, nobody lives it best, nobody knows that our second generation, the third generation will live them best as the Holocaust survivors. And while last survivors of the Holocaust are still with us, Israel holds a special place in its heart to the orphans of one man named Janusz Korczak, a very special man, an educator from Poland, killed with most of his young Jewish students in the death camp of Treblinka. The last survivor of the Korczak kid, Yitzhak Belcher, age 93, is showcasing a tribute to Korczak in a very, very special exhibition right here in Jaffa, where we're sitting. So let's go live first to our reporter, Tal Heinrich. She's with him right now at the Shoki Cook studio. And Tal, good morning to you.
Good morning, Yael. I would like to start with some background about Janusz Korczak. As you mentioned before, he was a Polish Jewish educator who spent many years, along with Ms. Stefa Wilczynska, as a director of an orphanage in Warsaw. In 1940, the orphanage was forced to move to the Jewish ghetto in Warsaw, and 2 years later, in August 1942, along with German soldiers, came to collect around 200 children, along with their staff member of the orphanage, and transport them to Treblinka extermination camp. And although Janusz Korczak was offered sanctuary by former Polish students and his Polish friends, he turned the offer down, and he preferred to stay with the children, with the orphanage, with the orphans, and stay with them until their bitter end, until the end of their lives. As you mentioned, we are here at the exhibition of Yitzhak Belfer. At 90 93-year-old, he's here dedicating his exhibition to Dr. Janusz Korczak. He arrived at the orphanage at the age of 7. It was 1930, and I would like to ask him, in Hebrew I would do it, about his personal collection with him and the way his exhibition reflects Korczak's personality and the special connection that they had. Good morning to you, בוקר טוב, יצחק. ספר לנו על התערוכה שלך, היצירות שלך, כיצד הן משקפות את הקשר האישי שלך עם יאנוש קורצ'אק?
התערוכה היא המחווה ליאנוש קורצ'אק, שהוא בעצם נספה, נרצח בשואה יחד עם הילדים. ויאנוש קורצ'אק היה מחנך שלי. אני הייתי שם 8 שנים, התחנכתי. והוא היה עבורנו לא רק מחנך, הוא היה אבא, כשם שסטפה הייתה אימא.
So Itzhak Belfer here tells his personal story, his personal collection about with Janusz Korczak. He was both an educator figure to him personally and a father figure as well. And what's interesting is that Itzhak Belfer told me before that amid the war and the tough Holocaust circumstances, these children at the orphanage in Warsaw, they did not feel as if they were lacking something in their lives. Korczak raised them all according to his personal philosophy, which puts the child as a little adult at the center. And a child deserves as much attention as a grown-up. Yeah. It was a self-ruled house, the orphanage. They had a children court there and children rules. And this exhibition reflects this all. And with us here as well is Shuki Cook, the curator and the owner of the Cook Gallery Workshop, that we're here with you. And you're the man behind this entire project. Can you tell us a bit about this?
Yitzhak came to my studio to create and asked us to create a book, artist book for him. And when I started to understand who's the person, what's behind him, and his special connection to Mr. Korczak, I figured out, by the way, that Korczak was the first person who gave him pens and paper to start his career. And I meet him as in this age of 1903 with a long way of painting and doing things. So I decided that I'm going to dedicate the book and the exhibition to Korczak, of course with his help. We figured out that the exhibition will be the public station of presenting this book that will be published was published in English and Hebrew and going to be translated into German and French in the very near future. We're trying they're trying to sell books now for collecting money for this publication.
Mm-hmm. And Itzhak is over here showing us the book. Itzhak, I would like to ask you, if I have time, Yael, one more thing. היום אנחנו מציינים את יום הזיכרון הבינלאומי לשואה, the International Remembrance Day of the Holocaust. And what is the message? מה המסר שחשוב לך להעביר?
שדבר כזה לא יקרה לעולם. המסר הוא התערוכה, ובעצם דמותו של קורצ'אק וילדים ו200 ילדים שהם שהלכו ונרצחו בטרבלינקה. המסר הוא שדבר כזה לא יכול לקרות יותר.
So his main message in English is never again, and this is what his exhibition is trying to show.
Tal, I wanna thank you for this incredibly important moment out there, because I do think that it's these people that really went through the Holocaust, that went through this atrocity, are the only ones that can actually explain to us what magnitude life is. Tal, thank you for being down there for us. And still with me in studio, I'm looking at, an amazing life story. Janusz Korczak saving 200 children. Not enough people like Korczak save children. Holocaust survivors, 93-year-old amazing man who takes his memories and puts them on paper. In Israel, there are still Holocaust survivors who, there are people who say that it's so important for us to have that memory maintained outwards internationally, but that we don't treat them as good as we should. What would you say to that?
I agree with you. I think that it's unacceptable that there are tens of thousands of Holocaust survivors in Israel who suffer, who do not have enough heating, electricity these days. And I think that as a society, we have to take every action possible to make their lives better. They won't stay with us any longer, and this is our obligation as a country.
And they're the ones who keep that memory alive. It's them, and that's
Absolutely.
the thing to remember. I want to thank you very much for being here with us on this very, very important day. The world need not forget, never repeat it, and of course, keep the memories of those who survived. When we get back, we're going to turn a page. We're going to do something entirely different. Look a little bit at culture, set for the week, set for the day. Stay with us. Now the news.